This is James Walker. Welcome to Real Talk, Real People. This is the podcast that turns the mic over to everyday people to hear what they have to say about the issues and problems we face as a society. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. You know, crime is a problem, and it's a problem across the United States, but in urban areas, it is a particular problem. My guests today are three people from the organization Street Safe Bridgeport, and the name of the organization clearly says it all. Their goal is to reduce the violence on the streets of Bridgeport, and at the same time, empower young people to have productive lives. Let's let them introduce themselves and let's hear what they have to say.
My name is Ebony Epps. I'm the program director of Street Safe Bridgeport.
My name is Aquil Crooks. I'm the program supervisor of Street Safe Bridgeport.
And
Hello.
Dennis.
Hello. I'm Dennis, outreach worker for Street Safe in Bridgeport.
Okay, Street Safe is relatively new. I'm assuming. How long have you guys been around? Ebony, why don't you tell us a little bit about how this program came to be?
So we're modeled after a program out of Boston called a Street Safe program, Street Safe Boston. And so they were doing a lot of stuff around the violence that was happening in the community, kind of like Chicago with the ceasefire, but it was like on a smaller scale because they had a lot of gang and group activity. And so we heard about it and we noticed that we were having the same issues here in Bridgeport, but on a smaller scale, and we wanted to do something about it. So in 2013, a grant opportunity presented itself. So in 2014, the whole plan came into fruition, and we modeled our program after Boston. And here we are.
I have to be frank, I'm really surprised because I retired as the senior editor of the New Haven Register, and which means that I wrote columns for all Hearst, Connecticut newspapers. This is the first time I'm hearing Street Safe Bridgeport, which is the reason why I contacted you guys. I've actually been doing this podcast for 3 years, and I've had many Bridgeport residents and organizations on. I'm just shocked because I'm so in tune to stopping the violence. So, Akil, why don't you talk to us a little bit about your role and how you see this program helping?
So my role in Street Safe is the program supervisor, and it's kind of to make sure that everyone on the team, all the outreach workers, are standing accountable and making sure that everyone is meeting their goals, meeting with their mentees, responding to the hospital calls, and making sure that our presence is felt within our community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At Street Safe, the goal is for people who are younger and as time go on to take back into their community. So the goal would be for people in the next generation after me to come on and take this job and take this role and be as enthusiastic about giving back to your community as I am.
And Dennis, talk to me a little bit about how you perceive this is helping right now. Are people responding to what you guys are doing out there? Are they responding favorably or unfavorably? I can't imagine it's unfavorably, but I can't imagine the amount of gunshots that we're dealing with every day either.
So, along with Street Safe, the program Street Safe is very supportive in the community and is very much needed. One of the things that I do as outreach workers, I'm a mentor. I mentor 14 to 24-year-old young males at risk between those ages. It is very much needed and necessary in those streets. We know that we have alarming rate with the young males dying at an all-time. I know in New Haven it's probably the same as Bridgeport, Hartford. So it is very much needed. We're credible messengers. One of the things that we stand on is the fact that we've come from where they came from, and we can share a different perspective on, look, was once there, been there, done that. Here's what you need to do to get yourself acclimated and do what's right in society. And it is very important that they have a voice, that someone that went through the same experiences and the trials and errors that they have, that understand and can relate to them and can try to give them a goal, a guideline to, just something to be there for them. Because the youth that they're out in the street, they feel that they're not being heard and listened to. And it is true. It's like a twofold. It is true that they're not being heard because the things that they're in. But when you do have a chance to deal with them, you have to be an ear for them. You have to be a listening piece for them, because that's the part in the component that we're missing. They're crying out, but they're crying out the wrong way. So it is very vital and important for credible messengers, as in the mentorship that we provide for the Street Safe, to be necessarily in those streets. And we're on the streets regularly and in those hospitals as these calls are being filtered in, whether it be shootings, killings, stabbings, anything that's someone's being perpetrated on, and violence is happening to them. So it is very important. Not only that, we're making sure that the first step we do is we make sure, as a Street Safe mentor, credible messenger, our goal is to make sure that you're safe first on the street, because a lot of our kids are not safe. Our next step, we make sure we identify your needs with assessments as far as like your IDs, your social security. Our next step is to make sure you're getting education, and that's important. And pro-social skills. We set up mentorship mock classes because our kids lack pro-social skills. They don't know what it is to have a job. They don't know what it's like to work. So that's what we come in at. We come in that's very important and necessary. Like you said, why is it necessary? That is very important, because our youth they lack the basic pro-social skills. They never had a job.
Let me jump in here because you said something that's very important. Why do they lack this? I mean, is it parents? Do you think that parents are playing a big role? Because quite frankly, some of this you have to put down to just bad parenting. And I know that in our community, a lot of mothers are working 2, 3 jobs just to pay bills. So they're not at home. So they're not at home to supervise this. This is a real problem. And we used to be that it was just males. But Ebony, I'm finding a lot of young girls now are dealing with this violence, and now they're carrying guns and knives. Why do you think that is?
Wait, I'm sorry. I just had to interject on a second. Is the statement you said bad parenting, and also said that it's because our parents are not because they're home. They're not home because they're working. I don't think the two of them are the same, because
they're absolutely not. They're absolutely not. But there are 2 sets of parents here. We have a set of parents who are working, and that is the problem. But we also have another set of parents who are not doing that.
And they're not working. But again, I still don't want to throw out the narrative of bad parenting, because I'm only going to be able to teach you what I know.
That's
so
correct.
This is the expert. If this is all I know, I only can teach you what I know.
And that's what I was going to say when I responded. They're doing the best they can with what they have. And as far as there are a ton of great parents, and there are some parents that need parenting classes and need more support with their children. It's just generational, I believe, because from when you grew up, when my parents grew up, when I grew up, there was the village. There's no more village.
There's no more village. There isn't.
And as far as the young ladies go, we work with males only. There was a time where we did work with some young ladies, but we don't get as many referrals for young ladies. We get maybe 1 or 2 a year. And when we do refer them to other agencies that work with young ladies. And sometimes these girls and young women are worse than the boys. They are. And I guess sometimes they use them because maybe some people won't see them coming. And so that's probably why they're carrying the guns and doing that. And some of them, they have bad home lives, and they're runaways, they're triggered, they're going through stuff, and they're acting out too because they're all traumatized, all of them,
Right,
both male and
all of
females,
them.
and they're dealing with a lot of undiagnosed traumas, and they're reactionary, they're reacting to something. So that's why therapy is important, and counseling and wraparound services. Not only do we work with the young person, we also try to work with their parents as well as much as we can. And if we don't have the resources, we like to recommend that they do the Parent Leadership Training Institute, or we refer them to other resources. And our kids too, we do recommend that they go to therapy or get evaluated so we can see what we're dealing with, because there's a lot of mental health issues going on as well, and that comes from undiagnosed traumas and traumas that haven't been dealt with.
And mental health services are severely lacking in the Black community.
Absolutely.
It's one of the things I used to harp on, is that anytime something happened with a young white male, it was always something psychological problems. But anytime something happened with a young Black male, he was a thug and so forth. And I just could not wrap my head around how could you say that this young man who has nothing, comes from nothing, lives in a violent situation, knows nothing but violence, how can you say he's not affected by this? But this white guy who grows up in suburbia, somehow or another, life has affected him.
We know nature and nurture. We know it's real. We know their brains aren't fully developed. And we also know that there always has been a stigma around mental health. But, the walls are starting to come down on that, because when I was growing up, they had places where they would just stick people in, so we would never see them. Now it's becoming more and more prevalent, and we're seeing it more and more in our young kids. And you're right about that young white male versus that young Black male. It's so systematic oppression, and it's designed that way. Sometimes it's just like we often say, as a team, when we talk about Newtown, we always say, y'all dispatched all these counselors and therapists. You guys have to keep the same energy, because we're affected by gun violence on a regular basis every day. It might not be as many bodies at one time, and my heart goes out to those families that lost those babies. That should have never happened. But our kids experience too. And we also always say, anytime there's a shooting or a murder, there should be counselors. If it happens in the area of this school, the counselor should be on notice to tell the kids, what, let's do debrief this morning, because we know something happened. Y'all might see candles or the yellow tape out there. Let's talk about what happened, because then you have these young kids and you're sending them to the office because they might be reacting and not knowing what they're dealing with in their home life, and not knowing what they just walked past on their way to school. So we have to do better when it comes to our Black and brown kids. We have to keep the same energy for all kids and all families, no matter where they live or where they come from, because I'm not where I'm from or where I live.
We're going to take a quick break here, and I want to remind our listeners that we're talking with Ebony, Aquil, and Dennis from the organization Street Safe Bridgeport. And also, I want to remind people about my memoir, Dead Windows, my long journey out of domestic violence.
Dead Windows, the new book by James Snowden Walker. Available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Google Books.
And now let's get back to Street Safe Bridgeport. Right, and we have to get rid of the stigma about getting help for mental health issues.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have to really just absolutely erase that. So, what are the main issues that these young men are telling you that they find to be problematic in their lives? What are the main issues? And Aquil, we'll go with you.
I mean, the number one issue is poverty. I mean, that circulates every answer in the book. But poverty. So I mean, and with poverty, I know that's a broad answer, but we have lack of housing, lack of support,
lack of everything.
Lack of everything. Like there's no real one answer that fit all. But if there was one, the closest one would be poverty, because it kind of touches on every aspect of life that they're missing right now. Because like Ebony just said, I can't go to school and learn anything if I'm having so much psychological trauma at home. How am I going to sit in and learn anything? So that's a problem there. How am I going to come to school and learn if I have no home to go to once I get out of here? And the only time that I'm going to have a meal is here. The only time that I'm going to be warm is here. How is my expectations of learning or doing anything if I'm just barely making it?
So, right. And we've
go
had
ahead,
kids
Evan.
in the past tell us that they would get arrested so they could go to juvenile detention because they had somewhere to sleep and had good meals there.
Wow,
and that's sad.
Whoa, that's beyond sad. And quite frankly, that's the first time I've heard that they deliberately get themselves arrested so they have someplace to sleep. And you know, when it gets to that point, you know that we are really failing our youth. We are just failing them if they are willing to get themselves arrested, put in a dangerous situation, just so they can have a bed. That is, well, it's mind blowing. What were you going to say?
They even had to change some of the laws because there was the numbers were rising as kids were just literally getting in trouble just so that they can have somewhere to go and something to eat.
Yeah,
that is, you know, I'm just sorry, and I come from that. I mean, it's not that I don't. I grew up tough, hungry. I mean, believe me, I know it. It's just that as an adult, when you hear that there's these kids out here, what I don't understand is why there is no help. That's what I don't understand. I mean, how can we be at a point where we just allow kids to purposely get themselves locked up? If you know it, then police know it, and you know the powers that be know that. How do we get to that point? And what do we do to change it?
The prison industrial complex is a booming business. You know what I mean? And it's modern day slavery. And I think that we have to afford the young people the same opportunities that we afford their white counterparts. And I'm not just making this a black white thing, but that's just real. The kids in Bridgeport needs the same level of education as the kids in Trumbull and Fairfield, Connecticut, and all of the other suburban towns. And they need the rules to apply to them as well when they go to court or when they might do something as well. We know what the problems are. We sit down, we have all these meetings, we talk about it, they have the data, we know what the issues are. So now we got to get down to the solutions and what are we going to do? And I think it comes down to that because we know violence is a public health issue. So is hunger. So is affordable housing. So what are we prepared to do? What are we prepared to do?
And it seems like we're not prepared to do anything until it hits or affects the right people.
Right. Absolutely. Just like the fentanyl issue, heroin, and it's been killing people since the beginning of time. Then when it starts sliding into suburbia, now we got a problem. We have to match energies, unfortunately, and I don't know. I wish I had the solution.
I know that I know what the solution is. We need money, and we need money focused on programs that help inner city kids. And it's almost as if our kids are just expected to grow up with this and just deal with it. That's the message. Just deal with it. But they're dealing with everything, like you said. Everything that affects their lives is a battle, unless they come from upper income standards. Everything that they deal with is a hassle, is a fight. They have to fight to eat. They have to fight for education. They have to fight to have a decent place to live. So everything about them is a struggle, and it really is quite easy to see how they take a negative view on life. Right. So now that we know that, Dennis, what do we do to change these young kids and make them feel empowered? How can we make them feel that it's okay to be Black? Because a lot of this has to do with them beating down Black men.
So I want to go back and just clear some of the issue that when I asked the young men what you asked, and I wanted to share that. So I say to them, I say, what is the reason why that we have to deal with what we're dealing with, and you act the reason why? What is the reason you act the way that you act? And you know what the young men tell me? There's no support system and no opportunity. So I've become lawless now. I've taken law into my own hands. And when I hear that, I'd be devastated. I'll say, are you serious? He says, there's no support system. There's no chance and opportunity. So now I got to take matters in my own hand. So I just wanted to say that was one of the ones on the first part that you said. I wanted to add that to that. The second one you just asked was what we can do. It always starts, believe me, you said the parents. Yes, it starts home, but it starts with us ourselves too. But we can't do it without enough resources and money. So we got to get these young people a chance and an opportunity, what they said. There's not a support system and an opportunity for them. So we have to be the ones that create that for them. And how does that look like? Like we're doing in our weekly, so we have in our Wednesday weekly group chat meetings. One of the things that we're homing in on is how you can pro-socially get involved academically and educate yourself out of poverty. My supervisor can echo that with that. So we're telling them how important it is to get your education. I know unlike what you're being told, but that's where it starts at. And some of them are on second and first grade and third grade at the highest levels. So that's what we have to show them that, look, it's very vital and important to have an education. But then we got to take into tune and account that some of them are not educated because they lack that even opportunity to even have that chance because of all the trauma they're decimated by and exacerbated by. So what we do is, go ahead.
So for the young men that you deal with, in terms of education, where would you say that they're at? Are any of them at where they should be, or at the level that they should be, or is that just a fantasy, so to speak?
No, and I don't want to speak to all of them. If I had to take an apple bunch and pair it up in 10 of them, I say at least 7 or 8 of them are not where they're supposed to be, and that's a large percentage.
So tell me something, because that in education bothers me, and quite frankly, if you had read my columns, you would have known that I dropped out of high school because I wasn't learning anything, and I felt I could do much better away from there, and I did. But why is that? I mean, why don't we storm? I mean, we do. I mean, I see parents and people out there, fighting for money. What is the problem with getting money to educate our kids? We pay our taxes. I don't get this.
I think we need to educate them at the level that they are and educate them up. And I also feel like there's no more industrial opportunities. A lot of people survived and thrived off of that and lived great lives and build futures and families off of that. They don't have that anymore. They used to have those type of jobs available because college is not for everybody. My brother did not go to college. I went. It wasn't for him. He was good with his hands. He was good with the computer, and building things. So we have to. The trades we have to put them back in place and make those available. And college is really expensive. I'm still paying for it, and I have a kid in college, right?
Yeah.
So it's not for everybody, but for the ones who want to go, yes, let them go, make it available. And that should be more affordable because you tell us, you have to have this degree or have this or this. And then you get those degrees,
you make it financially impossible to get it.
Right. You make it financially impossible. And then we get loans and we're in it and then we're in debt. And these jobs are not paying us enough. So, and I think they need more jobs with a livable wage. Rent alone is like $1,500 a month for somewhere decent in a decent area. And now I'm starting to see
me, I know.
Yeah, and in the other areas, like where they're not so good, the rent is going up over there too. Like people just because, and I will say this because I was born and raised in Father Panic Village. I had my parents in my life and my grandparents. I was fortunate. And then when they weren't around, I had the village. So statistically speaking, I'm not supposed to be where I am today, judging from where I came from and the things I grew up with. But because I had the supports in place, I made it. That's not everybody's story. So we need more support for these young people, and we know what the problems are. Let's get to the solution. Let's pour into our people and our communities. We have to do it.
I think there are a lot of young men out there who are bright, have something to offer,
Absolutely.
But they have no support. The education system is horrible. A lot of them don't have fathers to turn to help guide them. and it is a real problem. I'm one of those people who can honestly say that you do not need an education to get ahead in life. What you need is ambition, drive, determination, and you have to be able to present yourself. I find that a lot of these young people can't present themselves. They have a problem with talking. Um, and they talk like they're talking to their friend, as opposed to a potential employer or a potential somebody that can help them. And and that worries me more. That really worries me
Well, think
because
about it. This is the generation who never got penmanship. They don't even know
right,
how to write a cursive.
they don't know.
They don't
No,
even know how to sign your name.
I know, I know.
So,
I've
they
helped.
started taking stuff like that out of the school. So what does that tell you?
And not only that, art, which I found, for me, was critical to arts because that's what I really cared about. But a lot of stuff just isn't in schools anymore. And when I talk to these young men, they just seem depressed and lost. And that's what I say. They're down and they just don't know how to get up. But I have helped young men get jobs, and I'm telling you, 6 months later, you wouldn't recognize them. I mean, their whole attitude is different. They're smiling, and so they just didn't know how to go about getting a job and standing up and standing on their own feet. That is a problem. So where do we go from here with Street Safe Bridgeport? Number one, what is the problem with you guys getting funded? You've
I'm
been
sorry.
around long enough. You've been around long enough.
I'm sorry. I missed your question. You want to
What
know?
is the problem with you guys getting the adequate funding, the funding that you need? You're never going to get what you need, but I mean, you know, what is the problem getting some of what you need in order to, implement what you're trying to do on a bigger scale?
Akil, do you want to start? You don't want to start? Okay.
That
Okay.
that
Well,
that question is a all you
It-
question. That has I don't want to put my foot in my mouth.
so
well,
I mean, is it? Do you feel that you obviously you don't feel you get adequate funding? So how do we get more funding? How do you get more funding from the government? How do you get more funding?
I don't know, James. Maybe you need to write an article. I don't know, but but no. In all honesty, there's never enough funding, right? And then I feel that at times there are a lot of grant opportunities out there, but there's so many programs, and we're all fighting for the same dollars. I think we need to start working together more and
Thank
connecting
you.
more, collaborating more, because
Thank
it's
you.
all for the greater good of the youth and families and the communities that we serve. And I feel also that the people, the higher ups who have these funding streams and opportunities, they need to come really see these programs and talk to these young people and see that yes, you have grants requesting data and you guys get all that data and you guys pay for that in a sense, but you also have to be able to support the people who are on the ground. My guys are on the ground. We get calls. I'm the first point of contact. We get calls at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, 12, 1, all hours of the night. I was away on vacation and I was receiving calls about people being shot. And they don't just call us when it's our age range, 14 to 24. In Bridgeport, we have two hospitals, Hartford Healthcare, formerly known as St. Vincent's, and Bridgeport Hospital. We have an MOU with both hospitals. So we do get called, and my guys are dispatched to the hospitals to help, with de-escalation and crowd control. And the doctors and nurses, they're so happy that they're there to help, because then they say they could get their jobs done. So a lot of people don't know everything that we do, but if a program is tried and true and it's working, you should keep it funded.
You should
You
keep
should
it funded.
sustain it, because it seems like a lot of things that happen to work, they take away. And yes, we have been around since 2014, but we've also been laid off too. We've also, but we still, because we love these kids and we know that so many people have let them down, we try not to do that. And so even when we were unemployed, we would still work with some of our clients, and the guys would still go see them, and we do whatever we can. And we don't have all the resources, but we connect with other agencies at times hey, do you have extra whatever over there, extra clothing, for because somebody has an interview and they're able to help us, we help each other. That's the only way we could survive and stay afloat. We've been blessed lately, and I hope and pray that we continue to be able to do the work that we do, because not only do we need our jobs, but we are also passionate about the work, and we want to leave our communities better than we found it.
Okay, so ideally, if you had your druthers, what is what would you need to get what you want done, other than funding? Because we know that funding, or let me put, if you had more funding, what could you do with more funding? Maybe that's the better question. Where
Well,
you're lacking right now that funding would really, really.
well, we would hire more people. That's number one. And if we had like a little more discretion, like unrestricted funds, we will be able to help people sometimes with a security deposit, because we get people reaching out to us all the time for housing needs, and they never have their security deposit, even people who might have a Section 8 voucher. So things of that nature that we just can't use. Our funds are, they're restricted, and they're, for certain things. So we can't always do things like that. So that would be nice to have a little more in emergency relief, because COVID was something, and yes, people received stimulus, but there were still also, like, after all of that was done and said, last year and this year, people have still been struggling. And
Yeah.
with emergency relief funds, we had some money, and we were able to go to the grocery store and buy meals, because they did do food boxes, but some of the food boxes just didn't make sense. So we so they're giving people Scrabble, because you can't have nothing good if so we went to the store, and we would buy like ground turkey, ground beef, noodles and sauce, so people could make a meal, cereal and milk, things like that, lunch meat and bread, so they can make a meal or a lunch or a breakfast or something like that. But yeah, emergency relief for things like that. And we don't go crazy like, oh, buying Nikes, but we might have to go to Walmart and buy a pair of khakis and a polo, for somebody for a job interview. Like Dennis said, he does mock interviews with his clients, and so it's things like that. If we
And
can
then, and to add on, I mean, this is far fetched and all the money in the world, but to be able to house some of these young adults, and when I mean house them, create a transitional home to where we're able to help them learn these skills while they're with us, because a lot of times we have these young adults and we send them back home and there's dysfunction and chaos at their homes, where
violence.
they're dysfunction, chaos, violence, and other stuff of that nature, and they can't. It's unhealthy for them, and to be able to provide them with that kind of stability and that kind of structure would be like amazing, to be able to help transform some of these kids' lives.
Yeah,
And I
that's
just wanted to add up, my boss, Ebony, you said something that was very important to me, and that's what my young ones are struggling with. You said to meet them where they're at. So once we meet them where they're at, and we identify what they only can relate to and identify with, then if we have some more funding, we can help slowly, gradually meet them where they at and acclimate them into showing them how. Because everybody don't, like you said, don't have the proper education. But that shouldn't stop you, because you might not have an education, but you may still know how to work. You might lack pro-social skills and you don't have the education, but you're handicapped
yeah, but
according to how far you can go.
let's face a lot of these young people, when it comes to education, is because they haven't had, I don't want to say fun, but they haven't had education presented to them without a struggle. So they
Mm-hmm.
don't know what is, they don't know how education can help them. All
That's
they hear
right.
is education, education,
Yeah, that's right.
education, and they
That's right.
see people with education struggle. So
Yep.
I
Right.
think,
Yep.
there's a whole conversation that's
Absolutely.
going on there, but we're getting ready to run out of time, and I want to give everybody about 1 minute to say one final thing. And Aquil, we're going to go to you first, and then we'll go to Dennis, and then Ebony can have the final word. So you got about a minute. Say what you have to say.
What I would like to say is that we should definitely invest in programs that we know work, and invest not only in programs that we know work, but invest in people, our community, our young adults, because they are the future. They are what we have to look forward to. And without educating them and pushing them in the right directions, we will be doing ourselves a disservice and our community a disservice.
Agree 100%,
Ditto.
Dennis.
And I want to add to that too, that listen, as credible messengers and mentors of the streets where we come from, we need to give the support solely and truly to the young people out there. They're hurting and dying out there because no one is really supporting them and listening. And they're taking the law in their own hands because we're not seeing it. So we need to be, as the people, out there supporting on the ground with the young people, letting them know that there is a better way out. Like Ebony said, my boss, make this a better place than what it was and where we came from. That is a goal and a vital message.
Well, it's a very good one. And Ebony, final words from you?
And I'm just like, I'm here to support the young people, and we're here, and I'm just hoping that they know that if they're gonna follow, they should follow greatness, and if they're gonna lead, they should be great leaders. And we need to invest in these young people because there are a lot of great, intelligent young people, whether they're formally educated or not, here in Bridgeport and other urban cities that are great with music, arts, IT. They're phenomenal, and they just need a chance. And we have to pour into them and educate them up, meeting them where they are, educating them from where they are on up. And we need to see more teachers that look like our children.
Yes, we
that's
do.
Teaching them. They need to see people that look like them, teaching them and meeting them where they are and making learning fun. Because I never liked math, but once somebody showed me in a fun way how to learn math, although I know how to count money, the letters and the numbers weren't adding up to me. But, we have to meet them where they are. And again, if they're going to follow greatness, and if they're going to lead, they should be great leaders.
You've been listening to Real Talk, Real People. If you would like to be on the show, if you have an idea for the show, give us a call at 203-605-1859 or drop us an email at realtalkrealpeoplect@gmail.com. You folks have a good week, and we'll talk again next week.